2% of the police budget is $77,000. And so I think we needed more conversation around this budget, and I'm not comfortable passing it as it is. So my budget committee vote will stand.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I want to say that this was my first time chairing the Budget Committee, and I appreciate all the Budget Committee members that are here tonight. Thank you for your patience to a rank amateur doing that. And for the lively discussion. It was quite an experience, and we got it done in a reasonable amount of time, I think. I deferred in a lot of comments as chairman, just for the sake of keeping it going and for the liveliness of the discussion. But one thing I would like to bring up that did come out of the Budget Committee, and I've just talked recently with our city administrator about it, is that Canby, like virtually every other local government, is suffering from a geometry problem in that the slope of our revenue curve is much shallower than the slope of our expense curve. And coming out of the private industry, one of the toughest things that I have to get used to in the public side is that we seem to be unable to take good, solid corrective action early. And even the 35th largest city in Oregon is still a pretty good sized ship to churn. And I so badly want to make small course corrections now rather than try to churn a battleship in a bathtub later. Unfortunately, and Greg and I were talking about this, in the world of politics, it's very difficult to do that until you have the political capital of being totally out of money and having yourself backed into a corner. So I'm not advocating for budget changes tonight. I just came to the realization, though, that when I chaired that committee, I firmly believe I have chaired probably the next to the last normal budget that the city will have. That in the next biennium, we're going to have very, very tough decisions to make. And we won't be alone. Cities all over Oregon, all over the United States will be wrestling with how do we maintain services. And being a manager for 30-some years, I know the pain that that translates into, because services, especially at the government level, translate into people. People are what bring services, not paper and backhoe diggers. It's people. And unfortunately, we're going to have those kind of decisions to make. I wish we could make those corrections earlier. I understand the difficulties of why it's almost impossible to do that, but I wanted to be able to express that concern and thank the Budget Committee for walking through that process with us.
And if I may, thank you for chairing. You did an excellent job preceding those meetings.
Going forward, Haley, I know that you and I talked today, just kind of, you have a pretty, you've done a great job in your first year as a finance director so far, and I appreciate that. You have very lofty, not lofty, they're very doable goals that I think you're the right person to head. And I know that we as a staff and council will dig into those goals in terms of the capital improvement plan, increasing our contingency and those kinds of things. And we do have some tough decisions that lay ahead and very quickly in the next couple of years. So I suspect, I believe we have the staff that will be able to do that. So thank you guys for that. I will, if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a vote on the resolution. So we are going through, yes, Resolution 1162. We have a first by Councilor Dare, second by Councilor Ryder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay. Passes 5-1. Okay, thank you. Next resolution.
That would be 1163, which is the supplemental budget. As noted, it is primarily a housekeeping resolution. The general fund has a net contingency reduction of 57,000. I did go ahead and calculate. My husband always makes fun of me because I'm an accountant and I can't do math in my head. So, like even a simple math. But beyond that, I was able to calculate what the total impact to the contingency was, and that is, if I can move my cell around, I believe 101,000.
101.
101,466, when you combine all funds.
Okay.
The details are in the resolution provided to you as well as my report. Are there any questions?
Any questions for staff on the resolution? Okay. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to accept this.
Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of resolution number 1163, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for the 2012-2013 fiscal year.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Ayers, second by Counselor Coleman to accept Resolution 1163, adopting the supplemental budget for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. 1164.
One 1164 is presented to you to close the library endowment fund. As discussed in the budget committee meetings, the funds have been, the library board at their April 2013 meeting voted to recommend that the balance in the library endowment fund be used for the new library project, and that therefore we recommend that the balance in the library endowment fund be transferred to the library fund and restricted for the new library project. And there will be no ongoing need for this fund as there is the newly formed library foundation, which will take donations and endowments of this type in the future. This fund was originally adopted by an ordinance and appears in Chapter 3.16 of the Canby Municipal Code, and the use of the principal and interest on the capital project is what it was there for.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments? Take a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move for Resolution 1164, a resolution closing the library endowment fund and depositing its ending balance into the library fund to be restricted to use on the new library project.
Second?
Motion made by Counselor Dale, second by Counselor Hensley to approve Resolution 1164, closing the library endowment fund and depositing its ending balance into the library fund to be restricted to be used on the new library project. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Resolution 1165 is a housekeeping resolution that I'm proposing because to reclassify the Fleet Service Fund and the Tech Service Fund, which their classification was not explicit upon formation. Therefore, they had been reported as special revenue funds. They don't meet the GASB 45 definition of a special revenue fund. Therefore, since 2011 in the financial report, those funds have been rolled into the general fund. These funds are primarily to provide service to other funds and departments of the city, and their intent is that these funds operate on a cost reimbursement basis. Therefore, they meet the definition of an internal service fund, and we will be able to properly report them as such in accordance with GAAP in the financial reports with the adoption of this resolution.
Great. I appreciate the cleanup. Great. Questions? Okay, I'll accept the motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve Resolution 1165, a resolution classifying the Fleet Services Fund and the Tech Services Fund as internal service funds.
I will take a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Motion made by Counselor Hensley, second by Counselor Coleman to approve Resolution 1165, classifying the Fleet Service Fund and the Tech Services Fund as internal service funds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Resolution 1166 is a resolution declaring the city's election to receive the state revenues, which in Resolution 1161, we noted we are eligible for, and we held a public hearing in accordance with the statutes to allow public comment on the use of those funds as budgeted.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 1166, a resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenue for fiscal year 2012, 2013, 2014.
Second.
Thank you both. Motion made by Counselor Ayers, second by Counselor Hensley, to approve Resolution 1166, declaring city's election to receive state revenue for the 2013-2014 fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is Resolution 1167. This is adopting updates to the City of Canby addendum to the Clackamas County Multi-Jurisdiction Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. And Lieutenant Tro did a staff report on this. It's just a cleanup.
Very good staff report. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Now that I see our esteemed general manager of Canby Utility is here, one of the committee members listed on this report, Matt, it was Barbara Benson, right? Was she on that, or was it a Barbara Beamon, B-E-M-O-N?
Sorry, I didn't catch what committee you're referring to.
It's the hazmat,
It's-
Clackamas County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. I just want to make sure we've got it right there.
Barb has served in that capacity as part of interagency.
The last name spelling's
It's
correct?
Benson, yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so I make sure we
Clarifying, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great. I'll take a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move for Resolution 1167, a resolution of the City of Canby adopting updates to the City of Canby addendum to the Clackamas County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan.
There's a mouthful. Take a second, please.
Second.
As moved by Counselor Dale, second by Counselor Hensley, Resolution 1167, adopting updates to the City of Canby addendum to the Clackamas County Multi-Jurisdiction Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Resolution 1168 is also what I consider to be a housekeeping item. Within the budget that you guys have passed, we proposed closing the 911 emergency fund, the debt service fund, and the capital reserve fund. The 911 emergency fund became obsolete with the passage of SB 1559, which required 911 distributions made after January 1st, 2013 to be directly sent to CCOM. Therefore, the money that we contribute for emergency service dispatch will be paid directly out of the police department's budget going forward. The debt service fund was created to combine non-bonded debt. This created added layers of transfers between funds and was deemed more efficient and transparent to show the debt payments in the departments in which occurred the obligation. So this was considered a much more transparent obligation or option. And the same with the capital reserve fund. These things have been incorporated back into the specific departments as there was no specific CIP plan for this fund as established.
Again, another good cleanup item. Haley, thank you for that. I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve Resolution 1168, a resolution closing 3 city funds and depositing their ending balances into the general fund.
Take a second, please.
Second?
Motion made by Counselor Hensley, second by Counselor Ayers to approve Resolution 1168, closing 3 city funds and depositing their ending balances into the general fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is ordinance 1377. This is before you for second reading. This is authorizing an amended contract with Kin Technology to continue to provide computer technical services for the City of Canby.
Yeah, so this is who we currently have a contract with to take care of all of our computers in the city and make sure that they stay running and we stay up and running. I will take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of ordinance number 1377, an ordinance authorizing the city of Canby to enter into an amended contract with Kin Technology Incorporated to continue to provide computer technical services for the city and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Ayers, second by Counselor Coleman to approve ordinance 1377, authorizing amended contract with Kin Technology Incorporated to continue to provide the computer technical services for the city of Canby and declaring an emergency. Roll call vote.
Counselor Ayers.
Aye.
Counselor Hensley.
Aye.
Counselor Coleman.
Aye.
Counselor Dale.
Aye.
Counselor Parker.
Aye.
Counselor Ryder.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1379. This is authorizing a contract with CR Woods Trucking in the amount of $229,800.50 for construction of the Northwood Park project.
Counselor Ayers, did you want to give background on this project?
Well, this is the Northwood Park project that has been trying to get off the ground for 4 years. I call it the Walt Daniels Memorial Park project because he's been pounding to get this done. And it went out for bid at least once before, maybe twice, and the estimates came back too high. The park amenities, the children's amenities, were much more expensive. So it's gone back for redesign on at least 2 occasions. And they finally came up with a design that meets the needs of the community, the neighborhood, and is within the budget that the Parks Bureau has set aside in their Parks Development Fund.
Perfect. Is that going to be started and completed this summer?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, the idea is to have this done by September, I believe.
We have a little ceremony and Walt can cut the ribbon.
Walt can cut the
Yeah.
ribbon. So, Mr. Mayor, I would move approval of ordinance number 1379, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to award a contract with CR Woods Trucking, Inc. in the amount of $229,800.50 for construction of the Northwood Park project and declaring an emergency.
And I'll second that.
Motion made by Counselor Ayers, second by Counselor Hensley to approve an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to award a contract with CR Woods Trucking Incorporated in the amount of $229,800.50 for construction of the Northwood Park project and declaring an emergency. All those in favor?
That's
Oh,
a roll
sorry,
call.
you're right.
Need
I
to
know,
bold
and I
print
even-
and highlight his copy.
It says second reading, I would see that.
Counselor Ayers.
Yes.
Counselor Hensley.
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Dale.
Aye.
Counselor Parker.
Yes.
Counselor Ryder.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Always one.
Okay, the next item we have, this is also before you for second reading, is authorizing a contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal.
The sludge again.
Greg, I'll let you talk about sludge tonight.
Well, I just want to say that I'm real happy with Dave Connor's efforts on this. We have been having a lot of problems finding places to get rid of our sludge. Because of project we put in, a sludge dryer that we're having some issues with right now, we let all of our DEQ licenses to deposit sludge on local agricultural lands lapse, and we were having a problem finding places to put it, and it's very expensive to get rid of. Dave Connor found somebody that wanted this, and we're saving about $40,000 a year in hauling with this new location. So good for Dave.
Thank you.
And I would just mention, last time you guys wanted an amendment, you wanted paragraph 10, and that had been
I was going to ask about that.
For the public, paragraph 10 makes sure that when the hauler picks up the sludge, they own it. Well, we don't own it anymore.
Wait a
I
minute.
think that was a great catch on that, Counselor.
It's a
Thank you.
good paragraph.
I will take a motion, please.
Where'd it go again? Oh, Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of ordinance number 1382, an ordinance authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Counselor Hensley, motion made by Counselor Hensley, seconded by Counselor Dale to approve ordinance number 1382, an ordinance authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal and declaring an emergency. Roll call vote.
Counselor Ayers.
Aye.
Counselor Hensley.
Aye.
Counselor Coleman.
Aye.
Counselor Dale.
Yes.
Counselor Parker.
Yes.
Counselor Ryder.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Lots of- Next item on the agenda, new business, and it's the cancellation of the July 3rd, 2013 City Council meeting. Any discussion, Kim? Nothing right now is on
Nothing
the,
on the agenda.
okay. Anybody want to hold the meeting?
No, I'm good.
You're good. So, just say, I guess through consensus, we'll say we are canceling the July 3rd City Council meeting officially. Okay? City Administrator, Business and Staff Reports.
I have none there, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Second opportunity in the evening to provide citizen input. If anybody would like to come speak and provide any further citizen input before we move into action review.
So can I re-speak on something?
Yes, you can.
Well, I'd just like to ask you, Mr. Mayor, what is the plan if we're not going to purchase the cut property? Because you talked a lot about things that you didn't like about that process, but you didn't give us any type of information on what your plan was to do to carry this project forward as you agreed upon on April 17.
So I'm going to have to get with our city manager and talk about what our next steps are.
So I
On
think you
that
should
piece.
have a city council meeting in 2 weeks to provide some opportunity. We're anticipating groundbreaking, and we're putting energy and time into fundraising. We have appointments scheduled with donors. We have staff that are wondering what's happening. We're wondering if the project's going forward. You were very adamant about that you don't agree with this project, although you told us, and now you're going back against your word, as well as Council Ryder and Dale, and who voted in favor of the project on April 17th, and now you're saying you're not interested in helping fund that. So we need to know. We need to know tonight.
That's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
May I, actually, the property purchase is to be heard in the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. The purpose of the resolution in this meeting was to loan the Urban Renewal Agency money, and that was voted down, the loan. So I was going to hold it, but I'll talk now if you want me to about what Ms. Enderle was talking about. There's a resolution to purchase this property, and what I heard was that there are 3 people, well, yourself included, voted no. But I go to Mr. Dale's vote, which was to not do an internal loan. So I took the liberty of contacting several lenders today, and $1 million at a 10-year note is kind of their sweet spot. So the money's available if we want to borrow it. So, but that's a decision I think that has to be made in the Urban Renewal meeting. And so there is a resolution on there to purchase the property that you will vote on and vote it down. So we can look at that in Urban Renewal. But as I say, I think Councilor Dale's vote was to say no to the internal transfer.
Okay.
You said you didn't like that process. And I understand we had 2 councilors who did not like borrowing the money and the level of debt. I understand that. But that doesn't mean you can't vote on borrowing money from another source.
Okay.
That's up to the Urban Renewal Agency, but I would ask that that vote be taken. So I don't think that decision to not borrow money has been made yet. Just do it internally has been made.
Okay.
Do it unless you disagree.
So that'll likely happen in the next 20 minutes.
So that is in the next portion of the agency meeting
Well,
tonight, correct?
it would be in the
Or
Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Which
That's
is-
correct.
just coming up after we're done?
That is correct.
So
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other than that, I don't have a clue. But, anyway.
All right. Any other citizen input? Yes, Mr. Scott.
Thank you for your, again, time to address you. Thank you for the courage that you displayed tonight in your vote. And based upon the news that the city administrator just gave, we will wait and hear your decision from the URD meeting, which you also all the board members on. which I think is wrong also, but we will sit and listen to that. So I hope that borrowing money and furthering debt is still not a consideration. The economics speak for themselves. If you have to go borrow it, and you're going to pledge city funds to borrow that asset, or URD funds, I suppose, is what you will pledge, which is kind of our slush fund to pledge on everything. So I hope you take that into consideration.
Thank you, sir. Any other citizen input before I move into action review? Mr. Padden.
So I just wanted, I'm sure you probably all remember, except for Councilman Parker, at the end of the last meeting that we talked about the library, I came up and shared some opinions with you, and they were very passionate, and I have since talked to Mayor Hodson about this, and I just wanted to apologize formally in front of the citizens of Canby for my sort of flippant and heated remarks at that meeting. I meant you as a council, no ill will or disrespect. It was just the heat of the moment. So I do apologize on record for that.
Mr. Padden, thank you for that. And I would rather have a citizenry of passionate, engaged people that aren't afraid to come and state their opinions to this body. And so it was passionate, it was exciting, and I do appreciate that.
I have to say my mother actually watched it, and she did comment that it was not what she had taught me to do, so I have to apologize to her as well, but thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. With that, Mr. Brown. A buzzer beater.
So a couple of questions. My first was, I guess, to be answered. What happens to the borrowed money now that this isn't going forward, but I guess we're going to be determined. That brings up my second question, though, which is I'm confused how the leadership of this council can vote against a certain thing and not have plans in place for what's going to go forward. You said, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, with a shrug, and I'm not sure how that is just good leadership. I'll just say it like that. I do have more, but I mean, you can answer that if that doesn't count towards my time.
So, no, your time is fine.
Okay.
The piece of it is yes, so what is the decision going forward and what do we do? That, it does go back to the agency to say, you know, do we do another funding option? Does this become a revisiting of urban renewal projects to use that money? Because again, when we talked about this was we bonded the money, and the conversation topic was, well, do you give it back? Well, you give that back to the bonding piece, it's $1 million penalty. That, if I remember correctly, is what it was $2 or $3 million penalty. So that is not, for me, that is not a discussion piece. Yeah.
So, so other renewal, okay, so all that has to be decided. I'll put out there that more solar panels is probably not a good way to go, but.
We will probably not go more
okay.
solar panels.
If we want to talk about the city wasting money. So the other thing I'll say is something that continues to be a thing that feels, that just keeps coming up in my mind as I watch this discussion happen is talking about this property where the new library is potentially going to be being developed. And I'm wondering, who is this developer that stands to benefit from purchasing, developing, and then using this property? It seems shady. It seems shady that there's certain people on the council that are very for this happening. And I just want to say, I mean, I don't know if it's Mr. Scott that stands to benefit from this as a developer.
Rephrase your question there, Dustin. You're asking about?
I'm saying that this property, what was discussed about in the last meeting, was that this property would be better used, sold off, and privatized, made
Correct.
part of the, okay. And I'm wondering, who are these developers that
these folks that would like to develop this land that are, that stand to benefit from that. And I'm not saying Mr. Scott is one of them. I'm just saying that the actions that this council takes with voting for and against, and or against and then for and then against again, people are going to be looking at like who is helping you run for your next elections, who's paying for your signs. People are going to be looking at who you're playing golf with, who's buying your dinners.
Sure.
Who's,
Hey.
it's a very real concern, and I have, the utmost respect for you, Brian. I don't know anybody else on this council, but it's like, it looks real bad.
Well, so let me just explain that. The selling piece that we're talking about is, so we would buy the property, lease it back to Canby Utility for an extended period of time, correct?
2 years.
2 years. And at which point, while they're there, they're planning on building their building. And so when they vacate, the idea is to
No, I'm sorry, I don't think I clarified. I meant, it seems like one of the reasons why this project is attempting to be killed over and over again in general, so that there is no library on this block, is so that this land.
this block.
On this block right
Pardon me.
here, is so that this land can be developed. We visited this last time, we said, there was even called to an advisory vote, and we said, wait, this block really is the most viable location, but still, we're trying to find ways to not have it on this block so that we can sell that to somebody.
Right now, there is nobody identified
Okay, and that's.
for this side of the block or
Okay.
that side.
Okay.
It's
That's
a conversation piece that from a developable standpoint of our downtown,
Sure.
is this a good look?
Okay.
Is this a revenue generating part of the city versus the library aspect? So
Okay.
there is not I'm aware of any developer that is knocking on Greg's door to say, I'm ready to
Yeah.
buy up this city block.
Yeah,
Counselor
okay.
Reyes.
That's
If I
fine.
could just add one thing, I think, I'm trying to remember where I saw that it's in an email, but I believe it's probably a letter to the editor, that somebody said that there was a developer waiting to gobble that up, and I don't know who that wrote that. I am totally unaware of anybody that is
Okay.
knocking our door down to acquire it. So
Okay, that's-
It's just,
it's good to
people
hear.
can say what they want to the letter
Yeah.
in the newspaper
Yeah.
or an email, and
Yeah.
so.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you
Dustin.
so
Did you have
much.
something? No? Mr. Scott?
I'll set the record straight. We have no desire to own this property. We don't own any Overtown, and we won't own any Overtown.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Any last buzz, Mr. Drott?
I got 2 hours left of today.
John Drott, 23951 South Blount Road. I feel like that's my last name now.
Drops your middle name now.
Yes, but I'm not smiling any longer. I'm livid. I'm trying to decide how to word my words respectfully while I feel as though I have been personally disrespected by this body. For the last couple of years, I have lost thousands of dollars in business revenue volunteering to help this project. And I've been told along the way by you, Mayor Hodson, and everyone else, decision April, that's final, we're moving forward. Now I feel as though it's being killed again. I have lost thousands of dollars just this year, let alone the last previous years, personally, donating to the city. I feel as though you are taking advantage of volunteers, and this city is run by volunteers. And you're just taking and taking. And if you expect these volunteers to raise $1 million for another library project, you got another thing coming, and it's not happening. That $1 million pledge was predicated on this project. By my reckoning, you are throwing away, or in danger of throwing away, unless you find another solution, you are in danger of literally throwing away $1.6 million this evening in the name of fiscal responsibility. Does that make any sense to anybody in this room? I get it. I don't get it. Again, I feel as though I have been lied to by this body. I was in the same meeting that Rich Ayers referred to with Cub, when they said that swapping these properties shouldn't be any problem. I heard it right from their mouths. I feel as though, again, as a volunteer, I have been lied to right along the way. And if you think that I'm going to continue donating my time and efforts to people who lie to me, you got another thing coming.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Last one on comment? Nope. Yes, please.
Do you want name and address again?
No, I think we'll roll it forward from earlier. Thank you.
I have a question for you, and it may be rhetorical, but for something to appear on your agenda, one would think that you might have had some discussion about it before, and you might have had an approval of it by at least a majority, a simple majority, to put that issue before you on tonight's agenda. And for those of you who were in support of it, to come onto the agenda, why did you change your mind? And were you voting with the guy who wanted to hold the Capitol building without a dome? You're putting in jeopardy, as John said, $1.6 million plus that's already there, in addition to the money from the urban renewal bonds. I don't understand what you're doing. You say it's for fiscal responsibility. I don't see it.
Thank you, Joyce.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
The action so far this evening is that we turn down the funding, the interfund loan. In the next meeting, which is going to start as soon as the comments end on this meeting, we're going to consider the purchase agreement. And we, as a body, did instruct the city administrator to negotiate a contract, an agreement with Canby Utility, and we have not voted on that yet. It is possible that a resolution to approve the purchase can go forward, and then we have to figure out, then would have to come back to ratify the means of paying it, if you got a bank loan, for example, or some citizen stepped up and loaned us or granted us another $1 million to buy the property. So it's a multi-step process.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just...
Want to step here to the...
I'm Bob Westcott, 538 Northwest 14th. And aside to all of this, I just wanted to set the record, as I remember it, straight on the Canby Utility Board versus the city. I was on the city council in 1972. I was Canby Utility Board liaison. I had my shop where the parking lot is, right behind here, and the Canby Utility Board bought it. Previous to that, they had rented down where Napa Auto Parts is, and they were down there for 6-8 years, whatever that was. And then when they had enough money, they went ahead and built the building that's back here. And they bought the property that my shop was on so they could have a parking lot there at the front door. So that's my memory of it, was that the utility board built that building, did the funding of it, and so forth. And of course, we, the citizens, had voted it to be separated in the very early 70s. And so it was understood all the way along that there was city properties that would be divided, and some would go to the utility board and some would stay with the city. So somebody else may be a better historian than me. I don't claim to have the best memory, but I just, as I remember it, the utility board rented property until they had enough money to go ahead and buy property and build a building.
If I can add to, just
Yeah.
Bob is,
Thanks,
I
Bob.
think is probably spot on with his comments. I have a whole file in my case here. I just chose not to dig through tonight. And Canby Utility did pay for the building, and I even have the price of what they paid for that. But it was the land that was granted in the transfer when Canby Utility was separated from the city.
It was owned by several of the, like sewer and water and
Yep.
electric.
Yep. And
jointly.
that's where the price had to be picked, because, anyway, but yeah, he's right.
Thank you, sir. All right. Action review?
Okay, resolution 1169 failed. You adopted a resolution 1160, 1161, 1162, 1163, 1164, 1165, 1166, 1167, 1168, and you also adopted ordinances 1377, 1379, and 1382, and you canceled the July 3rd city council meeting.
Great. Thank you, Kim. We don't have exec session because we're going into urban renewal. I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Motion made by Councilor Hensley, second by Councilor Dale to adjourn the city council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That goes 6-0. We are adjourned on that meeting.
All right.
And that.
Now we're going to convene the urban renewal meeting. We're not going to change chairs. In the interest of time, I will chair the meeting from this position. The Canby Urban Renewal Agency Special Meeting of June 19th is hereby convened. We don't have a consent agenda, I don't believe, tonight. Okay, next item on the agenda is citizen input and community announcements. And this is citizen input on anything that's not on the agenda tonight, which is our budget and library issues. Okay, seeing that, hearing none, we now have a public hearing on the 2013-2014 fiscal year budget. Kim, do I need to read? I don't have,
Yeah.
I have to read
Him the-
his thing? I mean,
the script.
all right. I can't just say ditto the public hearings from earlier. Okay, tonight there is one matter before the hearing body that requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. This is all written in plural. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow comment card and give to the city recorder. The public hearing has to do with our budget, just for clarification. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hands at this time. Does anyone plan to give testimony on our budget, pro or con? Okay, seeing none. Do I have to read the part about selling time, buying time? No. Okay. All questions must be directed through the chair. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff report, then questions, if any, by the agency members. Then we'll open for the public hearing for testimony. First proponents, then opponents. We'll close the public hearing for testimony, have questions, if any, by the hearing body, and discussion. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing on this matter, or it will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the public hearing? Okay. We'll open the public hearing on the 2013-2014 urban renewal budget. And who is, Haley, are you going to present this, or?
So the budget hearing is for the budget as adopted by the budget committee, which did not include the interfund loan, which is kind of included in the resolution that I drafted for you, which will need to be amended either way.
So the budget does, I mean, the resolution does not need to be amended?
The resolution will need, the written part will have to be updated by me either way, because the total at the top of the resolution in your packet does not match the totals in the appropriated portions. The appropriated portions got updated for the inter-fund loan, but the total at the very beginning of it did not. However, the hearing, which we have to have now, needs to be on the budget as approved by the budget committee, which did not include the inter-fund loan.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. The Budget Committee has approved the urban renewal budget. Is now open for public discussion. Is there anyone wishing to give testimony on the urban renewal 2013-2014 budget? Hearing none, the public hearing portion will be closed, and we will move to resolutions and ordinances. And the first item of business is URR 13-005, a resolution adopting the Urban Renewal Agency budget for the 2013-2014 fiscal year. Discussion or a motion?
I guess a couple of comments on the budget. In the budget, we've got funds dedicated for the facade program, which we have great momentum on and are moving on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to move in second before
Sorry,
discussion.
you're correct.
So I move, for the sake of discussion, I move URR 13-005, a resolution adopting the Urban Renewal Agency budget for the 2013-14 fiscal year.
Second.
The motion to adopt the urban renewal, or adopt Urban Renewal Resolution 13-005, the resolution adopting the budget, was made by Commissioner Hensley, seconded by Commissioner Ryder. Discussion?
Discussion.
Brian,
Thank you for the matter of order. Again, as I was saying, the money that's in there for the facade improvement program, we're seeing a lot of momentum on that and a lot of buildings taking shape, which I think is great. Two concerns I have is I think that we have a miss with we're not providing funding for any of the 99E beautification projects that we've talked about over the years. That seems to have slipped out of the conversation. I would rather see money for that than the quiet zone piece. And then the money for extension or land purchase to extend community park. I'm all for the park piece. My question on that, or making sure that we do, is what is the plan on that and the design before we decide what it is we want to do? And then, the ongoing piece, how do we afford to maintain that piece of property with purchase and putting in a park? Those are my concerns on the Urban Renewal Agency budget.
If I could just make a comment on the community park thing, I don't think they're anywhere close enough to put anything in the budget to to implement, if they can come up with the deal to do the property. I don't think it'll happen this fiscal year.
Would it, then would it be better to designate money at least to, is it a matter of designing a plan, or at least get that ball rolling before, I guess, the bigger chunk of going out and trying to purchase that added land?
Well, I think that money was put in there for the purpose of looking at purchasing that land if it comes up for sale this year. And then that would take a planning project to find out what we're going to do with it. And it's probably quite a bit of money to get something in there, to do something to make that usable. That we're talking about that water down at probably the south side of the current community park. So I think there's $300,000 in the budget for that
There is.
purchase.
In the city.
Well, I guess that, again, creating the plan for it first and then deciding, or at least figuring out what we'd want to designate that area for. Has there been conversation at the Parks Board for that?
Well, the conversation is that at least part of the acquisition, if not most of it, would be covered out of the Parks Development Fund. And that it's a city action, not an urban renewal action, if that's in that case.
Okay.
There may be elements that they may come and look for some assistance in the original urban development plan of 13 years ago. There was a placeholder for community park improvements, but it's not been acted on.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution URR 13-05, a resolution adopting the budget, and the resolution will get an updated number?
Do you want an updated
Yeah,
total?
yeah.
The total would be $17,347,028 as appropriated in this resolution.
Okay. So the resolution, the number changes from what was printed to $17,347,028. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Oppose?
No.
It's
I'm an aye as well, Rich, sorry.
6 to 1 vote to approve it. All right, the next item on the agenda is Resolution URR 13-06, which is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for the borrowing of money. Since there is no offer to loan the money from the city, then that resolution will not be acted on. Is that correct? Right, is that correct?
That's correct, sorry.
All right.
Somebody else wants to.
Okay. So what we're now going to move to is Resolution 13007, a resolution approving a purchase and sale agreement between Canby Urban Renewal Agency and the Canby Utility Board to purchase property for the new library project. Before we start discussion, I just have a basic question. If we were to approve the purchase of the property, this purchase and sale agreement, and then we were unable to or did not fund it, what is the consequence?
There are
Maybe.
contingencies in there for that.
Okay.
And
Can maybe Joe help me?
Joe, help find a contingency.
Sorry, I disappeared when I was needed.
That's quite all right. I need to disappear soon, too, so. My question had to do with before we get into the discussion of the resolution, I wanted to know if there was contingencies in here that if we approve the purchase agreement with Canby Utility, but were either did not fund it or were unable to fund it, what is the liability to us of accepting this agreement?
Well,
Or approving this agreement?
it's predicated on actually not only being able to fund it, but being able to pass muster and all appeal at the planning process too. However, I'm trying to think if, at any time, you can agree not to do so. It's a question of whether or not your earnest money, or your escrow money, I should say, is forfeited, if that answers your question.
Right, and escrow money
Is $7,500 as it's written.
All right.
Does that?
Yes.
Because if it isn't through a fault of your own, then the escrow money goes back to the city, or I should say the Urban Renewal Agency. But if it's just a choice, then you lose that $7,500.
Okay. All right, I wanted to ask that question before we entered into a
Can I
long
ask a
discussion.
question?
Yep.
Just a minute. For those moments. It's right on my tongue. Since we haven't heard from, the planning commission hasn't, it hasn't come to this committee from the planning commission of their decision, which was to not accept the plan for the library. Should we be voting on any kind of funding of the
library until we've heard from the commission, since they've not approved, I mean, they disapproved.
You're not going to hear from the commission. They made a decision to not approve the site and design review.
Okay.
That decision has been appealed to this body, the council, not the Urban Renewal District, to the council. The commission's not going to come to you at all.
Okay, but I mean, we haven't
And-
heard that appeal.
No,
yet,
and you won't
right?
till July 17th. But in here, there are conditions that say if the land use or any land use decisions are not made in favor of going forward, then this document, the sale won't take place. So there are provisions in there to make sure that the council and the city are protected, as is CUB, Canby Utilities. So it is appropriate to go forward. It is appropriate to
Okay,
say yes to this purchase and sale agreement.
okay.
Okay, the other questions from the,
Well, and I should also, just as a matter of clarity, this is a different body than what is going to hear. And as strange as that is, because you're the same members, but technically, this body's making a decision in a government, yeah, it's a government entity entirely separate from the government entity that's going to hear the appeal of the planning commission. If that's actually an added layer of
Separation.
yeah, separation. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, good job.
I didn't put words in.
Thanks. It's getting late.
My one time.
I'll take as many brains as I can.
Can I ask a question?
Clint,
Do you know what interest rate that loan would be for 10 years?
we don't,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You mean if the people I talked to today?
Mm-hmm.
And all they told me was it would be between 5 and 6. And if, we did it now, because the rates are, they're edging up, as I think Commissioner at this point, Hodson can tell you, rates are going up, so. But it's close to or a little above what an interfund loan would be on a 10-year note. What's the resolution?
For the budget.
Is this for me?
I don't know if we want to do that when this resolution is completed or before.
Yeah, let's not confuse the two. We need a resolution, a clarification on a resolution on the budget. We'll go back to that. Okay, so.
What's your question? And I don't know, I'm sorry. The question was, they didn't know, but they estimated between 5 and 6 on a 10-year.
And have you also looked into an issuance of a municipal bond to see what the rates would be there?
I did. They would be lower, but one of the things we have, in fact, the city attorney and I talked about it, it's what they call low cap. And $1 million is not in their ballpark. They're looking for different size funding. So in fact, it was recommended by the people who sell bonds that I don't do that, that we don't pursue the bond, we pursue commercial loan.
Okay. Other questions at this point? Okay. I do have one card for testimony before we take a motion. And Tracy Height.
So Tracy Height again. So I have a point of clarification, I guess. If you vote down the Cub sale in the next couple minutes, does that essentially kill the new library? Can you answer that? I mean, is that too big of a question?
Well, it could,
Okay.
in my opinion. We would have to go back and negotiate, if Cub is amenable to it, to purchase potentially just the lot.
The parking lot?
The parking lot.
Right.
That's right on Second Avenue.
Okay. So before you, I guess you vote, I just wanted to call your attention to the front page. I know you all read it, of the paper yesterday here. And so it says library update pieces falling into place. I'll just read the first paragraph. With the voting done and most of the obstacles cleared, the Canby Public Library project continues to move ahead with the hope of breaking ground in August. It's a bit ironic, I guess, given today, what's going on today. But so here it is, and if it doesn't happen, there's humiliation, resentment, lot of disillusionment, a lot of, I'm not sure what the citizenry is. I mean, I'm afraid of what's going to happen in Canby. And then $2 million penalty, right? For the
If we give
bonds.
the money back,
No.
which we won't
Not
be doing.
necessarily. Okay, but you'll discuss that further. No?
I don't think, it is of my opinion that the money does not be returned. So there is no $2 million penalty.
For the bonds.
Correct. That we will have to look at either other ways to spend the bond money, or we go back to a drawing board and discuss another option.
Like on April 17th, when we realized that there wasn't a better option,
Well, that.
right?
We didn't
that-
fully discuss options. We
That-
turned the boat around really fast that night.
So, to your
Okay.
point, though, that there was that discussion of other options that
Okay,
may or may not be feasible.
okay. So I just want to say, all this for a parking lot. Okay.
Thank you. Wayne Scott?
Shouldn't have drank that water.